I want you to remember them this way. Before the word that broke the world, before the weight, before the first shadow that belonged to them and not to the tree above them. She had no name yet for fear. She had no name yet for death. The river had been flowing for 6 days, and she had watched it every one. And every morning it had been a small astonishment to her that the water was still there. You will not see her like this again. This is the last morning of the first world. The man was not with her. He was not far. He could have walked to her in the time it takes a cloud to cross the sun. But he had found easier company that morning. The beasts asked nothing of him. A lion returns affection without cost. A wolf does not require him to speak. His wife had begun, in recent days, to ask him questions he did not know how to answer. She asked what was beyond the river. She asked why the tree in the middle of the garden had been forbidden when every other tree had been given. She asked what the Creator was like when he was not speaking. Adam did not know, and a man who does not know, in the presence of a woman who is waiting for him to know, is a man who learns very quickly to find other company. He had been given a garden to keep. The word the Creator used meant to guard. It was the same word the angels used of their watches. He had forgotten this, or he had chosen to forget it. I watched him choose. He did not come to the garden with armies. The adversary had been watching them for days. He had studied her, the way she moved when she was alone, the way she tilted her head when she did not understand something, the hour at which she came to the water. He had learned her the way a hunter learns a path. He had chosen his body carefully, a creature radiant enough to be mistaken for one of our kind, a burning one. The word in the old tongue was seraph, serpentine and luminous and terrible. He wore it as a man wears a cloak pulled over his true shape. He had been beautiful once. He still remembered how. I knew him. I had known him before he was this. I will not tell you his name tonight. The saying of it is a wound I am not yet ready to open. I will only say this. He did not come to Eden to conquer it. He came to spite the one who had made it. He could not reach the Creator, so he reached for what the Creator loved. Did God really say, "You shall not eat from any tree in the garden"? She answered him carefully. She said they could eat from every tree except the one in the middle. She said they must not even touch it, or they would die. The Creator had not said this. He had said they must not eat it. He had said nothing of touching. She had added the second prohibition herself, or Adam had added it when teaching her. And in that small, invented stricture, the enemy saw his opening. She did not know the command exactly. She knew it nearly, and nearly was enough. "You shall not surely die," he told her. "For God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like him, knowing good and evil." Every lie he spoke was braided with the truth. Her eyes would be opened. She would know good and evil. She would become, in a dark sense, like him. What he did not say was what that likeness would cost. What he did not say was that the knowledge of good and evil in a being who could not bear it would not make her a god. It would break her open. She saw that it was good for food. She saw that it was pleasant to the eyes. She saw that it was desirable to make one wise. These three hungers are older than she knew. They were not invented by her. They had been waiting for her, the way a trap waits beneath the leaves. They would be repeated in every daughter she bore. They would be repeated in every son. They are the three doors, and every human soul passes through at least one of them before it falls. She reached up, and she ate. I have watched this moment 10,000 times in my memory. It never becomes easier to watch. She did not know what she had done. She felt at first only a strange warmth, a clarity. She thought for a moment the serpent had told her the truth. She looked at her hands, and they seemed brighter to her, sharper, more hers than they had been before. She did not yet feel the weight coming. She turned, holding the broken fruit, and she began to walk toward her husband. She believed she was bringing him a gift. Adam saw her before she reached him. He saw her, and he knew. He could not have said how he knew. He did not yet have the words for what he was seeing. The light she carried was no longer the light he had carried with her. Her edges were too clear. Her shadow lay on the grass behind her like something that had followed her out of a place he had never been. And in her hand, the fruit. I watched him understand. This is the part of the story most tellers skip because it is the part that matters most. He was not deceived. He saw, he knew. In the space of a breath, he understood that his wife was already changed, that something had been done that could not be undone, that she was walking toward him from a country he had not yet entered. And in that same breath, he made his choice. He could have refused her. He could have fallen to his knees before the Creator and begged. He could have torn the fruit from her hand and cast it into the river. He could have trusted that the one who had shaped her from his own side could shape her back. He did not trust. This was the failure beneath his failure. He looked at his wife and he looked at his God, and in that half second he decided that he could not live without her, and he did not believe his God could return her to him. He ate not out of love, he ate out of unbelief. He chose the woman he could see over the Creator he could not. This is the sin every man has inherited from him, not the fruit, the calculation. And then it came, the weight, the knowledge they had wanted. It was not the knowledge of a God, it was the knowledge of a mirror. For the first time in their lives, they saw themselves. They saw what they were. They saw what they had just done. And they saw each other as other. I watched the exact moment loneliness was invented. Before the fruit, there was no I that was not also a we. There was no edge to them. They ran together like two rivers meeting at the same sea. When he dropped her hand, the river split. Two bodies stood on the grass where one bond had stood. And each of them, for the first time, saw the other as something separate, something that could be blamed, something that could leave. They looked down at themselves. They had always been naked. They had never known it. Nakedness is not a body without clothing. It is a self without covering. And they had never had a self before. Now they did. And they could not bear to be seen. They reached for the leaves of a tree. Think on this. They had just broken the word of the Creator. Their first act in the new darkness of their own knowing was to cover themselves with the dead. The fig tree would remember. Millennia from now, though they could not see it, though I could barely see it myself, a man would stand before a fig tree that bore no fruit, and he would wither it with a word. And his disciples would not understand why, but I would understand. The Creator does not forget what a tree was used for. They hid. They did not know yet that He was already coming. The Creator came to them in the cool of the day. This is a detail most tellers rush past. Do not. It matters. He did not come in thunder. He did not come in fire. He came the way He had always come, walking, in the time of day when the heat has broken and the light has grown kind. He came the way a father comes home. He came the way He had come every evening of their short, radiant lives. This is the horror of it. He had not changed. They had. The same light that had once been the substance of their joy was now unbearable to them. The same voice that had named the stars was now a sound they could not stand to hear. He was not less gentle than He had been the evening before. He was exactly as gentle. But gentleness, to a soul that has learned to hide, feels like exposure. They hid from love because they had become the kind of beings who could no longer bear it. Then the voice. Where are you? He knew where they were. He had always known where they were. The question was not an asking, it was an offering. It was a door left open, a last chance to speak first, to confess before being accused, to come out of the leaves on their own feet. They did not take it. Adam answered, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. Consider what he did not say. He did not say, I disobeyed. He did not say, I have sinned. He spoke of fear. He spoke of nakedness. He spoke of hiding. 3 consequences carefully arranged to obscure the cause. The Creator did not let him. Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat? And here was the second fall. The first fall was the eating. The second fall was the sentence that came from the man's mouth next. I will give it to you exactly as he spoke it, because the shape of his answer matters more than its content. The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate. Listen to the architecture of it. He blamed his wife. That was the first turn of the blade. But before he blamed her, he blamed the Creator for giving her to him. The woman whom you gave me. The gift had become the grievance. The blessing had become the accusation. He who had sung when he first saw her now could not say her name without cursing the hand that had shaped her. This is what the fruit had done. In one afternoon, love had become evidence. The Creator turned to her. "What is this that you have done?" "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." She blamed the creature, but not the one who made her. The Creator did not question the serpent. There was nothing left in him to answer. He spoke to it first, not to correct, to end something. "You will crawl on your belly and eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed, and he will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." I heard the words, and I did not yet understand them. I understood a war had begun, that the woman would bear a child, and that somewhere, in a future I could not yet see, that child would break what had broken her. I did not yet understand how. I did not yet understand the cost. But the serpent understood something. I saw it in the way the light left his borrowed eyes. He had come to wound the Creator, and in the first breath of the reply, he learned the ending had already been written. The Creator turned to the woman. Pain in the bringing forth of life. To the man, the ground itself would resist him. Thorns, sweat, time. And then the word, dust. You are dust, and to dust you shall return. This was the first time he understood death. He had heard the warning, but he had never seen an ending. Nothing in the garden had ever stopped. Nothing had ever been taken. Now he knew he was not forever. He had only been loved by the forever. He wept. And then something I had never seen. He killed. He clothed them with what had died. He replaced their leaves with a life that had been taken. He covered their shame with blood that was not theirs. I watched and understood. That covering costs. That something innocent had just been given for something guilty, and that this would not be the last time. He sent them out. I want to tell you this was cruelty. It would be easier to tell you that, but it was not. There was another tree in the garden. I have not spoken of it yet. The tree of life. They had been permitted to eat of it all along. There had been no command against it. But now, with the knowledge of good and evil inside them, if they ate of the tree of life, they would live forever in the state they were now in, forever estranged, forever hiding, forever with the black ink between their hands. The Creator would not permit this. To let them eat of the tree of life would be to seal them in their brokenness for all of time. To cast them out was to leave them mortal, and mortal things can be redeemed. The expulsion was mercy. It was the hardest mercy I have ever seen. At the gate of Eden, the Creator placed a watch. 2 of my brothers, cherubim, beings of fire and many faces, who had stood closer to the throne than I had ever been permitted to stand. And between them, a sword, though sword is a poor word for what it was. A wheel of fire turning every way at once, a flame that was its own geometry. The way back was closed. Not forever. I knew even then it was not forever, but for now. For a long now. For as many generations as it would take to unfold the promise he had just made. They stood outside the only world they had ever known. And then the sun went down. They had never seen the sun set from outside the garden. In Eden, the light had never fully gone. Even at night, the place had breathed its own soft glow, the echo of the Creator's presence lingering in the leaves. Now the light went, and it kept going, until there was no light at all. And they understood for the first time what darkness was. The wind had teeth. The stones were sharp under their feet. They could not see each other. They found a cave. They did not choose it. They fell into it more than entered it. Not a home, only a shelter. A hollow in the earth just wide enough to keep out the wind. They sat. They sat apart. I want you to notice this. They sat apart. They who had been one flesh could not bring themselves, that first night, to touch. The black ink that had bloomed between their hands had not faded. It had only become invisible. Around them, in the veins of the stone, the gold gleamed. The cave was rich beyond the reckoning of kings that would not be born for 10,000 years. Gold, silver, stones that would one day start wars. They sat in the middle of more wealth than any of their descendants would ever touch. But what is the treasury of a king compared to the love they once held? It offered them no warmth. It reflected only their own faces back at them, strange to them now, clouded and heavy. The faces of two people who had forgotten how to look at each other. This was their first night outside Eden. This would be the shape of many nights to come. They did not know yet. They did not know that a promise had been made for them in the same breath as the curse. They did not know that the one who had covered them with skins had already begun to count the years. They did not know that the enemy who had found them in the garden would find them again in the cave, and again, and again, and again, and that their long war had only just begun. They did not know that he had set a number on their waiting. 5,500 years. I will tell you what happened in the cave, but not tonight.